When Susan Boyle first wowed the world on Britain's Got Talent in 2009, her come-from-nowhere success story enchanted millions. This unknown amateur from a small Scottish town became an overnight sensation through the magic of song. However, behind the scenes, Boyle's astonishing ascension to singing icon masked profound personal tragedies and adversities. Join Facts First as we explore the untold trials facing this beloved underdog turned superstar. Abused and bullied as a child. Susan Boyle has revealed that she endured extensive abuse and bullying throughout her childhood. At school, teachers and fellow students subjected her to both physical violence and emotional torment. According to Boyle's reports, her teachers frequently resorted to corporal punishment, allegedly hitting her with a belt on a daily basis and aggressively telling her to shut up. She described feeling continually targeted and attacked, facing not only verbal taunting but also regular beatings. Outside of the classroom, she states that classmates called her cruel names and excluded her from social activities due to perceiving her as different. In addition to the direct abuse, Boyle also revealed her struggles with frightening seizures that sometimes left her losing consciousness. However, teachers failed to appropriately recognize these events as symptoms of epilepsy, a condition which Boyle lives with to this day. Instead, because educational professionals had limited awareness of seizures and neurological disorders at the time, they mislabeled Boyle's episodes as evidence of mental deficiencies. Sadly, this lack of understanding shown by authorities during Boyle's childhood enabled further mistreatment from peers. Bullies felt emboldened to perpetrate physical violence and emotional abuse due to Boyle already having an unfair label as hyperactive and mentally impaired. In reality, Boyle dealt with an invisible illness as well as sensitivities likely tied to her later discovered Asperger's syndrome, a diagnosis on the autism spectrum. Because disability awareness was extremely limited in Boyle's youth, she found no refuge from the relentless bullying. Even at home, she couldn't escape some degree of physical harm. She has acknowledged that while her father loved her, he occasionally lashed out physically due to post-traumatic stress from war exposure. And although her parents meant well in attempting to protect Boyle by sheltering her, it also prevented her from learning effective coping strategies when navigating bullies or her seizures. Personal tragedies and health struggles. Susan suffered multiple personal losses and health issues that compounded earlier struggles. One of her most painful losses came in 2007 when her mother Bridget passed away at age 91. Having shared an especially close bond, Bridget's death catalyzed both grief and anxiety in Boyle since she heavily depended on her mother for emotional support. Boyle had also lost her father years earlier, so her mother's death intensified feelings of loneliness. Combined with unrelenting media attention as an overnight celebrity, Boyle's mental health deteriorated to the point where she experienced panic attacks and declining self-confidence. Making matters worse, Boyle's first and only romantic partner, a man named John, proposed to her after a very brief courtship, only to later leave her heartbroken by calling off their engagement altogether. While Boyle tried to remain optimistic that she might find love later in life, this rejection so soon after her mother's death dealt another blow during an already rocky period. In addition to romantic troubles and grief, Boyle has also spoken about health diagnoses like epilepsy and diabetes arising in more recent years. She even ended up hospitalized shortly after the finale of Britain's Got Talent due to complications potentially stemming from stress and disappointment over the outcome. Through it all, Boyle has unfortunately never escaped bullying fully. Though universally beloved by fans, she relayed being continually verbally attacked by local youth who shout insults or even throw objects at her public transportation vehicles to this day. Still, Boyle perseveres with characteristic grace, refusing to be driven out of the hometown she loves simply because a group of teenagers behave like that. Her indomitable spirit continues shining. Between coping with immense grief, relationship turmoil, chronic health conditions, and ongoing mistreatment in her community, Boyle has endured profound personal tragedies and struggles alongside her rapid rise to stardom. But supported by her faith and optimism, she soldiers on, even through intense hardships. Misdiagnosed and Misunderstood. In 2013, Susan Boyle received a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome, after having been incorrectly told she had brain damage as a child. This revelation finally provided Boyle with clarification on her neurological wiring, as well as a sense of self-understanding that had long eluded her. Per Boyle's accounts, teachers had labeled her as brain damaged early on, likely tied to her learning disabilities and seizures. But Boyle said she always felt the classification unfairly pathologized her differences and sensitivities. In actuality, her unique neurology relates not to damage or deficiency, but rather to a spot on the autism spectrum occupied by many high-achieving creatives throughout history. With formal diagnosis of Asperger's, Boyle gained recognition that her childhood treatment had failed to accommodate an alternative style of information processing. She also found compassion for personal quirks like struggling with eye contact. Traits viewed as deficiencies by uninformed authority figures during Boyle's early life instead represent natural manifestations of differently developed brains. Additionally, awareness of Boyle's position on the autism spectrum helped explain why rapid mainstream fame overwhelmed her initial adjustment period following Britain's Got Talent. The radical lifestyle change and incessant public attention exceeded her neurological capacity to smoothly integrate such sudden and extreme transitions. However, this makes her achievement in overcoming that intense period to flourish as a globally beloved artist even more remarkable. While incorrect assumptions caused extensive suffering during her youth, the accurate identification of Asperger's eventually brought relief. Boyle has said knowing the true reason behind her distinct way of relating to the world does not fundamentally change her identity or abilities to perform. However, correcting the misguided brain damage narrative that had plagued her development for decades did grant peace of mind after years of silently objecting to a misplaced label. Ongoing health struggles. Even amidst her continuing singing success, Susan has faced ongoing health issues that present new challenges as she ages. Most significantly, she recently experienced a minor stroke, requiring substantial rehabilitation efforts before feeling ready to resume public performances. The stroke occurred in April of 2022, impacting areas of her brain managing key aptitudes like speech and singing. As an artist who conveys profound emotional messages through intricate vocals, suffering any decline in oral motor control signifies severe threats to her livelihood and selfhood. When she finally re-emerged on the grand finale of Britain's Got Talent, almost exactly a year after her stroke, the significance overwhelmed Boyle and audience members alike, given the long path taken just to stand unsupported holding a microphone once more. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know about the tragedies and hardships Susan Boyle has faced? Let us know in the comments section below.